So first of all, very good afternoon to all of you. Uh, I think my first sense of gratitude to CII for at least taking up the issue, and I will be very specific on the agenda because I guess the previous session is already extended to a certain extent. So we will try and get all these first the need, the call to action, the opinion, observation, and then maybe some footprints. And we'll try to cover all of this in the next 1 hour.
How do we
Um,
put the slides in this and phone them in 10 minutes marker?
Yeah. So one of the things that this panel, I feel, after a long time, is going to discuss one of the issues which is very fundamental for all of us. One of the basic needs, clean air, and uh, and I think this my observation in whatever limited capacity and experience I have tells me that we have various stakeholders today in the panel, and what will be interesting to see throughout this discussion is what footprints each panelist leave as a stakeholder. Because all the panelists, and when I was going through the detail for the last few days, going through them, I think the experience level of each panelist varies from a graph to graph. And I think that's a huge impetus for at least a social entrepreneur like me to come and to realize that there are people who are serious about this issue. Because usually what happens is from the October end till about January, we keep discussing this issue. And as the stubble burning takes a backseat, it seems pollution has disappeared. But this is a very bad thing that we've got used to it. How we would lay out the entire panel is from a sector that I come, which Mr. Pandey, Mr. Krishna, and Mr. Chadda would appreciate, is that the entirety of a process starts from the very basic understanding of whether it is a real need or it is a felt need. So I think a lot of the people who are not involved in the process feel that this is a felt need. This is not exactly a real need. I would treat that air pollution today is a much wider should be a much wider debate than COVID. This is something that has been there for so long, and if we don't do anything, it's going to take a very devastating turn. It has already turned. So, how we would start the panel is by I would first welcome Vijayji, Dr. Arvind Kumar, Mr. Anurag Krishna, and Vinod Pandeyji with me. But how we'll follow is that is at least my what I solicit is that if we can establish the need, and the need establishment is basically done by a person who's experiencing the effects at a daily level. So I would rather hand over the next few minutes. Let's keep it to about 7.5 to 8 minutes each, and I would like to hand over the honor of taking the discussion forward to Dr. Arvind Kumar, who through his huge experience in the medical field that he's currently, uh, he's also the chairman of the Institute of Chest Surgery and chest oncosurgery and lung transplantation at Medanta Robotic Institute. He's already worked with Gangaram Hospital and with All India Institute of Medical Sciences. But what is very interesting for me to realize that, Dr. Saab, what kind of effects are you seeing at your level? Because you're seeing the effects. A lot of us are the causes for it, but you are actually day in and day out. You're facing the effects. One is, how does a medical expert like you react to a situation like this? I'm sure there is an element of frustration. Why can't people see around what is happening? Why can't they take remedial steps for it? There is bound to be a sense of frustration. So one is that, with startling data, if you can tell us what is the kind of feeling that you have, one. And second, according to you, what role can a citizen and a private corporation primarily play it in your view to limit this change? So, Dr. Saab, over to you for the next 7.5, 8, 10 minutes, whatever you want.
Thank you very much, Soumitra-ji. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So
You are
first of all, my sincere thanks to CII and all of you, ladies and gentlemen, for this lovely opportunity. I consider it a unique honor to be sharing the digital platform with such luminaries and sharing my experience. First of all, to begin with, I will correct what Soumitra said. He said that you see these and we are the cause. No, sir, you are not the cause. You actually are the sufferer. I see it, I see the suffering, and all of you, in fact, I should say, all of us, we are the sufferers. Of course, we create the causes also together. And in that, I am as much a culprit as you are. Can you see the slide?
We can see your slide.
Okay, fine. Vaishali, thank you very much. And once again, thanks to all of you. And as you said, I will take precisely 8 minutes and stop at 8 minutes. Greetings from Medanta. This question is often asked to me, why is a doctor talking about air pollution? Air pollution is not just an environment problem. Truly speaking, it's a serious public health emergency. And as a doctor who's actually seeing the effects himself directly, it's my duty to be appraising or advising people or bringing it to their notice the impending health disaster and the need for clean air. Now, this picture summarizes the agony that I go through every day. And this was actually the reason for the start of Lung Care Foundation 5 years back. On the left is the normal pink lung that we are born with. All of us are born with a pair of such pink lungs. On your side, on your right hand side, is not a lung of a smoker. This is the lung of a non-smoker from the city of Delhi. And you can see these black deposits, not because this gentleman has smoked cigarettes, but because he has lived and breathed the air of the city of Delhi. Nobody in Delhi has normal pink lungs. I dare make this bold statement on the basis of at least 3 to 4 pair of lungs that I see every day for the last 30 years. And this is the lung of a child who was 13 years old, and you see the kind of black deposits he had. Now, these are the changes that I see every day. I would like to share a couple of patients I have, and I'll stop after that. A 32-year-old gentleman, a non-smoker, so-called non-smoker, comes to me and is diagnosed as lung cancer. His father was accompanying him, and he asked me, Doctor, I have heard that smoking causes lung cancer. My son is a smoker. Why has he got it? I had no answer. A 34-year-old lady, a Sikh lady from Punjab, wife of a Sikh gentleman, a completely non-smoking family, comes and is diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Most shocking, a 28-year-old girl from a complete non-smoking family. The parents were about to get her married, and she comes to OPD and is diagnosed as stage 4 lung cancer. Can you imagine a 28-year-old girl being diagnosed as lung cancer? And this slide summarizes my agony. I have been practicing lung surgery for 30 years now. On the left-hand side is the scenario in 1988, and on the right-hand side, 2018. Lung cancer is the main focus of my work. 90% of my patients were smokers in 1988. Very rarely, 50% of my patients today are so-called non-smokers. 50%. Average age of lung cancer was 50 to 60. Today, 10% of my patients are in 30s, and the peak age is 40s. Very few women in 88, 40% of the patients are non-smoking women today. Color of the lungs, every time I used to operate, I used to see pink lungs except in smokers. Today, it's a rarity for me to see pink lungs. When I discharge patients after surgery, today, if I don't put the patients on nebulizers, they just keep coughing, coughing, coughing. So why is lung cancer increasing in non-smokers and women and occurring at younger age? And I'm giving you the answer. We breathe 25,000 times a day, and breathing polluted air is equal to smoking. Why? Because WHO has done this analysis, and the contents, chemical contents of polluted air are the same as are there in cigarette smoke. And University of Berkeley has come out with a conversion formula that in terms of damage 22 microgram per meter cube PM 2.5 is equal to 1 cigarette. So imagine, friends, when the city has PM 2.5 of say 250, which is a very common occurrence in our city, each person breathing in the city is smoking 10 cigarettes. And therefore, WHO has already classified air pollution as a carcinogen. I just did a guess as to, okay, 2018, how many cigarettes did I smoke, though I'm a non-smoker? The average PM now, at times it goes up to 600, 700, but if you take 365 days average, it was 143, which was converting to 2,500 cigarettes in a year. And mind you, please remember this picture. When a newborn is born in the city of Delhi, does he or she import the air from somewhere else? No, he or she also breathes the same air. So what do we have? If the smoke equivalent is about 10 cigarettes, our newborns also become smoker from the first breath of their life. And friends, this precisely is the reason why I'm seeing young lung cancer in 30s and 40s. Typically, you need exposure to these carcinogens for about 25 to 30 years before the lung becomes cancerous. So earlier, the exposure used to start in smokers when they were in 20s or so. By the time they are 50, they would get lung cancer. Today, from the very first breath, the child is becoming a smoker. So by the time he or she is 30, he is ready to get lung cancer. So I would just summarize. I have lots of slides, but I will stop here. In polluted cities, breathing kills. You might find it a very contradictory statement. We sustain life because of breathing, but friends, in the process of sustaining life, we are also killing ourselves. I'll just rush to one slide, and a lot of people ask me, okay, which are the organs affected? Friends, look at this picture. These are the only organs in the body which are affected. But as a surgeon, when I look at these organs, I find that there is no other organ left in the body. Summary, every organ suffers the damage. And one more slide I'll show you, which is important from the point of view of CII as to how much is the damage which is caused by, when we talk of death as the ultimate, effect, this is just the tip of the pyramid. What happens is at the bottom is proportion of population affected. You are a normal person, you are affected. First, your lung function starts decreasing. There is some inflammation. Then there are some respiratory symptoms. Then you start going to doctor. Then you start coming to ER and finally they're dead. So when we say that there are 7 million deaths, but before those 7 million deaths, there are tens of millions and billions of people who are suffering. And what does that lead to? It leads to a huge economic burden. Why? There is a direct cost of treatment. There is an indirect cost of billions and billions of man hours lost for the patient and the family in going to the doctors and the ER and the time away from birth. And imagine the cost of millions of premature deaths. So friends, I'll stop here by giving just a one-line message. Air pollution is a public health emergency. Each one of us has to do whatever it takes for it to control. If we don't control it today, not us, but our next generation is in serious danger. Thank you, and over to Mr. Soumitra.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar. And believe you me, when I was in one of the articles that I wrote a few months back, one of the data according to the Greenpeace South Asia was that, just putting it in a very simple format, 54,000 deaths happened in 2020 itself. More than 250,000 infants died in the very first month because of pollution in 2019. I mean, these are startling figures. These are figures.
Yeah.
And it's an irony, that we are already sitting halfway through in a public health emergency stage. And it is an irony that it is not in the center stage of discussion, whereas we should forget everything else and start focusing on this issue.
Yes. In fact, what saddens me is that COVID has caused much less number of deaths than
Absolutely.
air pollution causes every year. But air pollution does not get even 1/100th of the attention which COVID has got worldwide. It's an irony.
Correct. And I absolutely agree with you in this regard, because even in certain aspects of the governance, when we go on to discuss, usually when people in, let's take for example a very localized approach. Even in Delhi NCR, people seem to be discussing this topic. And where I'm coming to Mr. Pandey now is that, they seem to be only discussing this once the stubble burning starts. And then you
Yeah.
start, you're visibly able to see the smog in the air. The summer months, because of the wind velocity, we don't realize. But
Sure.
Delhiites and people living around Delhi have got used to a habit of living at a higher pollution level, which we have sort of
Absolutely.
normalized, building to the catastrophe all the more.
Sure.
And
We
yeah,
only look at the optical quality, which
correct,
deteriorates only during the winter months. During
correct,
summer months, the optical quality remains okay. But if you do chemical analysis, you find it's
yeah,
equally bad, and we
correct.
just accept it as norm.
Correct. And in fact, I was reading one research a few weeks back where it said that the micron level of the particulate matter is so thin that it is even thinner than your hair. And
Yes.
in that case, it is impossible to be detected in normal environment.
So PM 2.5 is 1/20th the size of a hair. I had all those slides, Manami. I skipped all those because I had to finish in 8 minutes. But
Yeah.
PM 2.5 is 1/20th the size of a hair, and it can reach the most peripheral part of the lung, deposits there, remains there, damages the lung forever, and causes whole lot of diseases from lung to brain, sparing no organ in the body. And mind you, last piece of information, there is data now that this passes the placental barrier. Pregnant women living in polluted cities have serious damage being caused to the baby in their uterus. Now, this is damaging the next generation before they have even come to this world. This is the saddest part, and I'll stop here.
Yeah.
And I would transfer the honor now to Mr. Pandey,
Yeah.
who I think in the, as we were discussing, is one of the most sensitive topics only for a few months that happens, but needs a solution
Absolutely.
throughout the year on stubble burning. And I clearly remember, hearing Dr. Kumar and then transiting to Mr. Pandey. There's a very nice saying in the climate change platform paradigm, is that this is the first generation which is seeing the adverse effects of climate change, and this is the last generation which is left with an opportunity to do
Very
something
true.
about it.
Very
And
true.
Absolutely right.
yeah,
Very
and I
well
hope
said.
we are
Very
able
well
to
said.
do something about it. So over to you, Mr.
Sure.
Pandey, and the very sensitive topic of stubble burning, and what is your roadmap from there? What do you
Thank you.
advise? Any observations?
Thank you. Vaishali, can I share one or two pictures which I had taken while I was on a visit to Ludhiana to take care of the stubble burning issue? So how do I share? Meanwhile,
Sure,
I'll
it will
start.
take. Sure, it'll
Okay.
take a minute. Maybe you can continue with your
Yeah, sure.
and meanwhile we'll do that.
Sure. So Dr. Arvind has actually given us the effect of what happens due to the pollution. But I have actually seen the cause of the pollution back in Ludhiana. In fact, about 2 years back, CII approached us. Of course, I have been living in Delhi for about 5-6 years. And around October, November, we see all the smoke all over. But the Delhi, we don't really see the pollution. We just see a little bit of smoke. So basically, pollution has a very deep impact economically and health-wise also. So when I was approaching Ludhiana, it was around evening. And on the right-hand side, I could see complete fire, as if the entire village had been burnt by someone. And that was something that really shocked us. So next day, of course, we visited the villages. We spoke to the farmers. They said, we're sorry, but we don't have a choice. And unless they they cut the stubble, and unless they burn it, they won't have enough time to grow the wheat crop, the next crop. So all this happened because there was an act which was implemented by the government of Punjab and Haryana, sometime the Subsoil Water Act in 2009. Earlier, they used to sow the paddy sometime in April, May, but paddy needs a lot of water. So the government thought that April, May, there are no rains. So let us postpone it to May and June, around June. So that Subsoil Water Act in 2009 forced the farmers to sow the paddy sometime in June when the rainfall comes. So technically you are saving water, but then when the paddy is ready and when the time for sowing the wheat crop comes, then the farmers get only about 15 days time. So in that 15 days, if they have to cut the stubble and move it somewhere else, that will take at least a month or two. So the best option is to burn the stubble, which takes just, you just need a matchbox. In fact, I spoke to some farmers and they said all we need is a matchbox that costs us just about 5 rupees and some kerosene or petrol, and the entire farm is burnt and the stubble is gone within, say, 2 days. So they burn it and then they start sowing the wheat. But there are a lot of negative impact apart from pollution. When they burn it, of course, pollution is there. But when the field is burnt, you have to re-moist it for the wheat to grow. So that will require a lot of more water. So that is also one of the negative parts, negative effect of stubble burning. So what we decided, how do we stop the stubble burning? So now some equipments have been introduced. That is the Happy Seeder, the rotavator, and the mulcher. So we decided to buy these machinery and donate it to the farmer cooperative societies or farmer producer organizations. The rich farmers, of course, they can buy these equipments and use it. But the marginal farmers are not able to afford these machinery. So the planning we did was, we will buy these machinery and give it to the farmer producer organizations. They can lend it to the marginal farmers. Each marginal farmer will need it for about a week, 10 days, because they will have a small piece of land, not too big, about 2.5, 3 acres and all. So they borrow it at around 500 rupees a day, which is a very small amount. And that 500 rupees a day takes care of maintaining the machinery. The best part about this Happy Seeder and rotavator and all is, they cut the stubble. There is an equipment behind it, mulches the stubble. It adds the wheat seed there along with the manure. So it's an all-in-one process. You just run the Happy Seeder, which cuts the stubble, mulches it, adds manure, and sows the next seed. So in one single process, the stubble is gone and the wheat is sown. So we decided to do it. And unfortunately, I have some pictures which I'm not able to show. And I also sat on the rotavator and the Happy Seeder to see how it works. It is very comfortable and it is very easy to do. And you don't need too much of labor and you save so much more of pollution. So this is what we did. Now, using these machinery, the major effects is, it will eliminate air pollution almost completely. We have worked in about 46 villages in Ludhiana and Patiala, total about 34 to 35,000 acres of land. And in this area where we have worked for the past 2 years, almost 85% of the farmers have stopped stubble burning, which is a fairly major effect. And in fact, when we visited in 2019, some of the neighboring farmers were not very keen on using the machinery because they didn't know how it will affect. But on my second visit, I could see that they came to us and asked us that, can we also get the machinery? So that is how, that effect keeps growing, and the nearby villages, they start using it the next year. Using this Happy Seeder will eliminate air pollution due to crop burning almost completely. It will reduce greenhouse gas emissions from on-farm activities by more than 70%. Apart from that, one thing which is normally does not come into in the news is it will save tremendous amounts of water. Because when the stubble is burnt, for the next crop you have to put a lot of water on the ground to moist it so that it can accept the next crop. So it saves tremendous amounts of water. It saves on labor because a lot of labor from Punjab has migrated back to Bihar. So they are short of labor also. And that is one reason why they burn the stubble. And it will also improve soil health and crop yield. It will improve soil health because the soil doesn't have any burnt effect, and you need less water. And we also saw on our second, third visit that the crop yield for wheat has gone up by almost 15 to 20%. So not only we take care of pollution, which is of course what we are discussing today, that is the most important thing that it does, but it has a lot of other side effects as well. So what I feel is this should be taken up by more corporates, the Happy Seeder thing. And if the Happy Seeder is promoted in Punjab, I think people like us living in Delhi and Gurgaon will probably breathe a little easier. One more thing the corona has done is it has given us the habit of wearing face mask, which I think we will need it even if corona is not there, just to save ourselves from the pollution. So that is my take on this thing. And of course, farmers are collaborating with us. Farmers are helping us out. And that is the very big thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pandey. But what interesting aspect of your presentation came across to me specifically is that for a change, I'm actually seeing mitigation having multiple dividends.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's making all sort of logic, whether it is labor logic, whether it is economic logic, whether it is a health logic. I think if the solution in itself, whether we use the Happy Seeder or we use the rotavator and whatever technology we use, ultimately leads to not only economic sustainable growth, but also focuses on the sustainability component itself through various plans of health and everything. So
absolutely.
And I think coming to your COVID remark, I think yes, I think people in Beijing were used to wearing masks much before the COVID hit, and I think in the long run, although the data that was shared by Dr. Kumar, which was some of us already were aware of some components of it, but the thrust with which Dr. Kumar spoke, it actually was it should shake us up. I don't know why we are not shaken. I think we have become resilient by choice, that we will not react to situational emergencies like this, but I think it should shake us up. But one of the components is and this is a very typical thought, I'm just putting it to the panel, we can discuss it on later. I think if I have a feeling that if we are able to work this stubble burning mechanism in a proper way, the way you explained, and we can bring it down to a very negligible amount. One of the things that we'll have to really fight is bring back the air pollution on the central agenda. Because if I am to realize, let's take Delhi as an example, its own contribution to the pollution index is quite high. If we leave aside the stubble itself, the intra-city, intra-state pollution contribution is huge, whether it is vehicular pollution or the construction or the other components. I think that needs a simultaneous solution also. We'll have to work on that so that we are able to bring that. And now the electric vehicle movement starting in the long run, and it would be interesting to see what is the approach of these organizations. And that's where I come to Mr. Vijay Chadha. Now, he has been a pioneer in this space for quite some time. And Vijayji, I am looking forward to hear you out on this. What is the approach of the private sector in this case? This is not something that can be discussed in the board meetings. This is not something that can be treated as an auxiliary component. This is something, as Dr. Kumar said, it's hitting all of us at one time. And in fact, it's also hitting the kids who are about to get born. Forget about being born. I think about to be born. What, in your understanding, what approach are corporations taking, and especially with corporate social responsibility, how can we increase in manifold first the awareness and then create a touch point for a solution at a large level. So, Mr. Chadha, welcome, and please, the honor is completely yours.
Ramito, thank you so much, and would be grateful if after 7.5 minutes you ring the bell, because I'm trying to watch. Yeah,
I'll give a buzzer on hand.
All right. Okay. So quickly, just to tell you all, we heard Dr. Arvind Kumar, who's a super specialist, and we heard Mr. Pandey, who's had so much experience in this area where they've been looking after stubble burning. I just happen to be a generalist, so I must confess that I'm not a specialist. I don't have any solutions. I will share all that I've been privy to, that we've been doing as a foundation. But a little bit about myself, I started life in the Indian Army, 20 years in the armed forces, 16 years in pure corporate, making money for large corporations like all CEOs do, right, and earning bonuses. And post that, I had the good fortune last 13 years. So that makes a total of 39 years of work life, which I complete on the 31st of March, where I had the privilege of working in the social and development sector. And 11 years of that was with the Bharti Group as CEO of the foundation, Bharti Foundation, where I worked in rural education, for Sunil and Rakesh Mittal, setting up schools. We ran 255 schools in villages, mix of primary, elementary, and senior secondary, and worked with close to 1,000 government schools when I chose to retire 2 years ago in July 2019. That's when the current gentleman that I work for, called Ashish Dhawan, who was on our board, got hold of me to talk about air pollution. I knew nothing about air pollution. He said, Vijay, listen to me. This is the problem. He'd been to China many times. I think Dr. Arvind knows him well. I mean, he's understood this problem and said, we need to do something, right? And I'm sure that we can get a lot of people on board to make a difference. And we decided that we are going to set up a foundation which will actually implement. It will be an action-oriented foundation. We're not going to give Gyan because there's enough of Gyan available. There's enough of data, research. The thing is how to get people to act. Like Mr. Pandey said, what PTC did, they got into a certain number of villages. Unfortunately, that's a very small number, in the context of the larger problem. And I'll come to that because we are also working in stubble burning. So we set up what is called the Air Pollution Action Group to say that we will support government, right? Because there's a National Clean Air Plan. Every city is supposed to have a cap, right? And, we said these are plans which are on paper, most of which cannot be translated into actionable items. So let's bring our corporate experience. We set up a team of bright young people, IIMs, IITs, MBAs and the likes, and, generalists like me, to say that let's go to governments to say, how can we help them and assist them in making sure that we at least address the actionable items. So I'll quickly now come to what we are doing. In the last 1 year and 10 months, we've done an amazing amount of work. I could never believe that we would make so much of progress in so short a time. We started work with the Delhi government and what they used to call hotspots in the winter of 2019 to help them manage their hotspot action plan. Right? So we learned a lot from there. That was the first thing. We also went to Punjab at that point in time, right? Earlier, around September or so, but that was too late to say, how can we assist you in managing stubble burning? The work has to start well in advance, And it's not only about the machines and all, I'll come to that. It's also about people understanding mindsets, of actually engaging with the farmers, right? And addressing the mindset and the issues that they have, even in using happy seeders and what is now called super seeders and the rotovators. So we started with these action plans where we learned a lot. Then we said, let's take the learnings from here to other places. The good news is that with Delhi, we've graduated to the next stage. We became part of the committee on clean air monitoring, which was set up by the PMO. But unfortunately, because of some bureaucratic issue, it's now lapsing on 28th of March. So now there is no body. The one led by Mr. Burelal was abolished when this was set up. And now they made sure that there is no extra constitutional authority to interfere with the bureaucracy. I'm sorry to say that, right? But because of that, we upgraded our work with Delhi. With the South Delhi Municipal Corporation, we are running a pilot with all the DMs there to actually, manage the on-ground issues. We said, let's address, the sources which are causing pollution on ground. Right? We are not there are big ones. There are policy issues which are being addressed. There are lots of agencies working on that. There are major things which needs to happen in terms of management of traffic, in terms of getting the vehicles off road, the policy issues around vehicle age, around the conversion of diesel, getting onto electric, also creating diversions, etc. So all that is happening. That needs to be speeded up. While we have a research team, we said we'll not get involved in that. Let's look at the sources which can be controlled and assist the government in managing that. Things like dust, which construction dust, demolition dust, things like road dust, patches which need to be repaired. Let's put in teams on ground to identify those things, take reports to the authorities and get them to repair that. Then, garbage burning and stuff like that, how to dispose of garbage, where can we assist? Various things on all these sources, that's where I work. Along with Delhi government, today we've signed MOUs with the government of UP to start work in Lucknow and the government of Bihar to start work in Patna and Muzaffarnagar. So I'll not labor on that. The good news is that our teams are working on ground. We are learning a lot and hopefully we'll make things happen. We've developed a software to help them, it's a MIS kind of a thing to help them monitor, manage, and at various levels they can see as to what is happening. Along with IIT Delhi, we developed a training program to sensitize government employees down the line to understand what their role is and how important their role is in managing air pollution. They believe कि ये हम क्यों करें? इसको ये dust यहाँ रोकने से क्या होगा? ये petrol station है, vapor रोकने से क्या होगा? इससे pollution क्यों कम होगा? So for them to understand how important their role is, so we've been training all these people on ground, in various districts of Delhi to sensitize them so that they can perform the job better and they can feel better about what they're doing. We are deploying the survey agency at our cost. We are taking no money from the government, by the way. We are fully funded, through our own funders, as well as our projects are funded by other funders. So our projects working in UP and in Delhi, in Punjab on stubble burning, we worked with the government of Punjab. We have an MOU. We actually developed a large-scale communication program for farmers. Unfortunately, the agitation last year completely scuttled that. All hoardings which were put up were burnt and stuff like that. So nothing could happen. But the good news is that the government got engaged, and this year we've started work from now. The government has agreed that we don't need to start work in July, August. We need to start work now to actually handle this October story and to get farmers on board. The problem there with the machines, while there are happy seeders and rotovators, the other is farmers understanding why should they use that? Do they have the financial ability? They believe it's cheaper to burn, easier to burn. So you've got to address all those issues through local, engagement teams with the farmers on ground, besides large-scale communication campaigns, which we'll run again. The other thing is distribution of these machines. Machines are there in pockets. Farmers don't know where it's available. So in some places, it's lying idle. They're not being utilized optimally. So now we are working with the government. We said, we'll develop a software for you where the people will be able to access it, find out कि कहाँ पे ये machine available है. और कहाँ से वो free मिल सकता है, कहाँ पे थोड़ा पैसा लगेगा, जो भी है, and integrate the work which is happening. PTC is working, CII is working, various people, small NGOs are doing a lot of work. We said, let's help in integrating all these efforts and actually simplifying everyone's work. So that's the stuff that we are doing. We want to do campaigns. You spoke about schools, and my job is actually, my subject was air pollution and the role of society. I think Dr. Saab has spoken about it, everyone's spoken about it. All of us are society. Each one of us has a role. There are lots of things that we can do by influencing as influencers, as people who can actually input, whether donations or whether money or whether time and effort. Also as people who can do things in the way we do things ourselves. The children can be great influencers. It's my belief always, having worked so many years in education, I believe the biggest change makers in the world are children. We get our schooling right, we get our government schools right, we get the right mindset in our children, everything will start changing from there. Because they are the ones who can influence everyone. They are the ones who are actually the sufferers. Because for what we leave behind, these poor kids, like Dr. Saab rightly said, before they are born, they are suffering. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's unfair. I think, the burden is on each one of us. We have to feel guilty. We can't leave behind this kind of world for our children. I'm going to be 70 years old. So I'm there. I'm going to say bye-bye soon. Live my life. Fortunately, a lot of it was lived well. The good days, Indian Army, stuff like that. So we breathed a lot of good air. So, once carried on surviving, and by the grace of God. But what are we leaving behind? Is this fair? There has to be a lot more awareness. People need to understand. People must know as to what is hitting them. Rightly brought out again, COVID. Here is a killer which has been killing for so many years and will bring much more damage. You recover from COVID, you can't recover from this. Once your lungs reach stage 2, stage 3 cancer, how are you going to recover? I mean, let's be honest. So I think that's what it is. So coming to it, Team APAD, we are working with government. We realize we don't want to give gyan. We don't want to be at cross purposes. We are not going to be into advocacy. We are going to see what can be done, and let's work to get that done better, and then work on sustainability. So that's where we are, Soumitra. That's what it is. We are very young, barely 2 years as a foundation, but you hear a lot more about Air Pollution Action Group. I can assure you that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vijayji. And with all your experience coming in, one small thing I think you spoke and you touched it, because I'm also working at a different paradigm with children. And I realized that let's look at the firecracker phenomena.
Yep.
Means the greatest example that children can be an agent of change, I think a much bigger agent of change, because they have less baggage of already a lot of gyan in their head, which creates a lot of load, and they're so open. That, I now see this campaign run so successfully in schools that now you have kids coming back and saying, no, we don't want firecrackers because of what has been taught in the school. I think one of the phenomenal practical indicators can be this.
Absolutely.
At the same time, I would like to know, Vijayji, a bit from you on this. How do you feel? I mean, sometimes I get a feeling you're working with the government. You have worked so long in the, leave the defense. Means you had a structure there. You had so much of discipline, intent, integrity flowing that, there's very little room for lackadaisical approach. Means I would call it, it's criminal to ignore the fact that today we are living in a kind of, and the air that we are breathing today, and we are hardly doing anything about it. I would rather say at that scale, we are hardly doing anything about it. It's a criminal act, and the punishment will be, put on our next generation. So I would want to know what is your feeling on the public-private partnership here, because the scalability will only come when the government comes in as a partner.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it will be very difficult. So how do you see that evolving?
So Soumitra, that's a very tough one. Right? It's not easy to work with government when you talk of government. There are individuals in government you have to find. There are some wonderful people there who will support you. Unfortunately, they're all in transferable jobs. One person moves out, then you're dealing with a vacuum. You got to start from scratch all over again. So there has to be, government needs to be on board. Unfortunately, or whatever it is, for good or for bad, there are so many problems in our country, and air pollution does not figure amongst the top 10. It does not. That's my experience.
Right.
People believe there are much greater problems that need to be resolved. इसमें हम क्यों time waste करें? What Dr. Saab rightly said, they don't know that it's already a killer. The amount of damage that it's doing. So clearly, what corporates can do actually is canvas with government. Like we said, this training program that we are running for the low level, junior level employees, right? Same thing. Can we do more to engage with politicians, policy makers, decision makers, to actually tell them what a huge problem it is? You have to take the China route. It has to be say, we got to get it done. Tomorrow, this Prime Minister of ours says, this is my, like Swachh Bharat, clean air is also going to be one of my top 3 priorities. Yeah. I'm sure that we can get things to start moving if every chief minister says that. So somewhere we got to bring about this level of awareness for the government to move. And like you say, without a PPP, in a country of our size, magnitude, diversity, we can never find large-scale solutions to issues like this.
I'll come back to you, Vijayji, on this. Anurag, coming to you. Now, you are representing a company which is obviously, and don't take me right on this, you're one of the most profitable brands of the world. You're one of the reputed brands of the world. You're one of the most profitable companies of this country. How does TCS look at this issue? How do you address this issue? Means you guys in the private space have got a huge paradigm, a capacity to address in certain large pockets this issue. how does TCS take this forward? What does Anurag and his team have to tell us as a student that, look, this is where we are taking and this model can be replicated. Let's join hands, because your scope is huge. So Anurag, if you can take us through that journey, and what is TCS doing and how are you collaborating to get this menace addressed?
Sorry, Soumitra, may I butt in for 5 seconds?
Yeah, please.
I take this opportunity to congratulate Anurag. I don't know if you all are aware that they were the Corporate Citizen of the Year in the ET Awards which just happened. And TCS received this award for their work in CSR. Well done, sirs.
Oh, fantastic.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. It was as recent as yesterday.
Oh, fantastic.
Thanks.
So we are not too late in congratulating.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, everyone, and pleasure to be here on the panel, Soumitra. First of all, let me confess that I think I'm the most tech savvy of all. So I use the background of CII, which was sent at the last minute. So hopefully it's showing good. So I'm not showing the other way around, is it? You can see the CII in straight, right, Soumitra?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So basically, this question which you have asked, Soumitra, to me, TCS in general, is something which I can handle more through technology perspective, being a techno company. So as a corporate citizen, as you mentioned, and we got the award as well. But apart from the award, the responsibility of each and every 4.7 lakh employees of TCS is to help maintain the sustainable growth. And when I say sustainable growth, and we don't do it directly, as you all know, we are not an industry where we make products, but the products which are being made all across the universe, they have a process, and that process requires a lot of background technology. And how do we do that is something where techno companies like TCS and TCS of the world come. So coming to that, starting from the root cause, and just to give an example, that the blue sky, right? Somebody mentioned Delhi blue sky. So right now it has become such a rarity that we click selfies and we post on Instagrams the blue sky. So that's what the life has come to. And children, as you mentioned, children's like Greta Thunberg have to come to the rescue for the world, and they have been smart, just like the smart cities and smart applications and smart devices. The children, the version 3.2 of generation, are much smarter than us, and that's what they have bluntly quoted before the previous US president as well, right? That you have lived your life, but we need the life for ourselves. So that's why the children are more concerned about that, and everything which we can do through technology, we can do a bit, but technology alone cannot come to the rescue, Soumitra. That's what I'm trying to come to the point, that technology is not is sort of is the cure or give a solution for everything. The basic problem is that the space on planet is reducing, and that's not just restricted to Delhi or India or Asia. That's something which is happening all across the world. So I remember 25 years back when I first went to US, and the same place when I go today, be it Silicon Valley or even be in the remotest part of US. And if you visit that place, and you can yourself make out the difference, the crowd is increasing, the people are increasing. So that's the root cause we have to identify. And the root cause is that we have to start living a sustainable living, start living in the basics of things. So with world economy growing, and that's where IT, you can blame us, Soumitra, that we are the prime spenders, of what we earn. And that's where companies like TCS and Tata's ethos come. So we are told to live a very sustainable and a very, life which doesn't create an impression of show off. So like that can have and will have culture which is there amongst the youths and the new millennials, is that if you can afford a car, then why not buy it? So if you can have it, why not have it? So that sort of cultures have to be taken off, and companies like IT companies like TCS and all those who have very young generation people, we try to discourage that as such as a message. So you'll be surprised. Everybody might be doing, but in this COVID time, right? We're expecting that the automobiles will take the biggest hit. They have taken a hit, but it will be surprising for everybody to know that they faced a shortage of vehicles in last 3-4 months. And the reason being simple that every citizen or every young guy, thought that I saved on commuting 7-8 months, and maybe I'll save it in future as well. So they did a calculations which really doesn't point to a very sustainable living. They say that if I save that much amount and if I can buy a car, why not? So that sort of things is something which a company like us or bigger companies have to spread a message. So those are the things. But technology, of course, is coming to rescue with the smog towers and all which are coming up, and the electric cars. These are all things which are the all revolution of IT. So in that way, we can say that technology is trying to do its bit, but again, the underlying message is that we are expanding too much. We're expanding too much and too early, and have been very ambitious, more than ambitious than what we should be as a human being, all inclusive, not just developing countries or developed countries. The COVID has taught us a lot, though, of course, the air pollution is the key discussion, but the COVID has taught us how to live in a very sustainable and restrictive way. The very fact, the example of this conference itself, right? Had it been a normal days, we would have been in a habitat center, or if CI had a good budget in a 5-star hotel, right? But we can always do without that, right? So why do we need it? So that's, yeah, somebody was saying something. So I'm open if somebody wants to chip in, because 8 minutes criteria will be difficult for me. So what I'm trying to say is that that is what COVID has taught us, that sitting at home and we can spread the same message without taking a toll on the environment. And the WFH, the word work from home, is the word for the year. And that is something which was not imagined. One couldn't imagine, even in IT companies like TCS, year back. But as they say, that adversity brings opportunities, and now many of the companies, including TCS, have decided to cut their all infrastructure. We have a target of 25 by 25. That is 25% of employees will only come to office by 2025, and that will become a norm. It will become a compulsory thing, and not an option where one want to do it. So that's how we'll reduce the dependency of too much infrastructure, unnecessary infrastructure, the big buildings which are coming all across the metropolises, including Delhi, Gurgaon, the NCR region. Those are the things which might become a thing of the past if we take technology as the main core, help for working around. So a person's, like, I have a whole team which sits in all the places. Means all my employees, subordinates were in Delhi when COVID wasn't there, and they were difficult to imagine, that they'll be going only on the Diwalis and Holis of the year, right? And now we want to make that culture that they come on Diwalis and Holis of the year to offices. That's what sustainable living and sustainable workforce for a technology company. That should be the idea all across the globe. So we come together only to celebrate, and otherwise we work from home. We work from using the remotest, the limited resources which we have, and that's how we tend to become a sustainable citizen, a corporate citizen, techno corporate citizen, so as to say. And that's what we have been rewarded yesterday by ET. So that's from my side. I'll be happy to take any questions, Samitra. That will make it more effective. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Anurag. I think, urbanization, growth, taking ramification. I think one of the things that shocks me sometimes is when we see all of this happening around, why aren't we talking about responsible urbanization plan? Means, we have to plan till we don't seem to plan anything till it becomes
Namaskar.
an emergency. And this aspect is already an emergency. For example, I feel however complex the problems are, the solution sometimes is very simple. The solution is not very complicated. But the intent to implement that solution seems to go through a lot of process, which in itself, takes away the entire purpose out of it. So whether it is, as Vijayji was saying, whether it is the bureaucracy, whether it is the private sector, again, going in for, dividends, their promoter comfortabilities. And at the end of the day, we don't seem to be giving a serious thought or a podium or a platform where, for example, and I'm talking very basic, which is why I'm going to come back to all of you for 2 minutes, is if I am the urban planner, if I'm one of the people responsible at the policy making, I would first put somebody like in this panel, Dr. Kumar, to come out and tell us how we will plan, but can you tell us the data and the effect so that we can plan on your capacity and knowledge, rather than we will plan and then leave the effect of all of that to be mitigated and managed by Dr. Kumar. Now, I'm using Dr. Kumar as a representative of the entire health paradigm, especially in this air pollution index. Now, if I go to that basic level, I can figure out how much of this is caused by stubble burning, how much of that data is available. That GAN is available all throughout. How much is our own vehicular traffic for every city, how much is the waste, the garbage dump burning, how much waste are we generating, what can we do? But there is no cohesiveness in all of this, because all of this, people will talk in silos. Some of the great work that, for example, PTC and for that matter, Vijayji's foundation is doing. Why aren't these becoming national examples? Why are we talking about these examples, and why are we not imbibing these examples as, okay, fine, we have to go that way? Means we can talk so much of IPL if 50% of that importance is given to, I think 6 months for around the year is given to air pollution. I think we are going to have much less cases in Dr. Arvind Kumar's clinic, at least for this reason. And he would love a situation like that where he doesn't have to go through that way. So I would like to put a single question to all of you, and this is where it will get very interesting. Give me 2 call to actions. All of you, give me 2 call to actions that we can put in a paper, and we can push it as your strict smart advisory. And all of you in your relevant sectors have a way out for this. What are the 2 things that we will leave as footprints of this discussion? I will start with Dr. Kumar, because he will again set the foundation of this based on, because he must be having his own understanding on this. So Dr. Kumar, how would you want us, if treating us, all of us as laymen, what would be your 2 recommendations to start this change now? Your 2 points for call to action. Dr. Kumar.
Thank you very much, Soumitra-ji. And I must say, I really enjoyed and immensely benefited from listening to Mr. Pandey, Mr. Chadha, and Anurag-ji. And congratulations to Anurag-ji for a well-deserved award. Thank you so much. Everything that you have said actually makes so much sense, and it's almost like a deja vu, because these very sentences I keep saying. Why IPL gets so much attention, and when I talk about, if I was to stand up and start talking about air pollution, maybe 5 people will listen. If somebody was to start talking about IPL, there will be a traffic jam there. This is some kind of a misplaced priority. But as a doctor, I always look for, okay, what can I do? Or what is it that I have not done? Or what is missing, rather than pointing fingers at others. First thing I feel is that this magnitude of the damage which it is causing has not been told to people in as hitting a word or words as it needs to be told. 2 years back, we started a group called Doctors for Clean Air, where we wanted to have a few doctors in every city to act like champions for clean air, just the way I do it in Delhi here. I can't travel the whole country. So I thought, okay, let me have people across. The dream was to have at least few doctors in every village, in every town, in every district headquarter who could be lobbying with local people, with the local schools, civil society, administration, bureaucracy, municipality about the need for this air. So I said, okay, let me get a few leading pulmonologists from across the country and do a one-day webinar for them. You will be shocked that even some of them were not clear about the difference between AQI, PM2.5, PM10, what are the health effects of air pollution. When I talked about this slide showing that the damage starts from the intrauterine life, there was a sense of dismay on their faces. And I learned that even this informed community is not really as well informed as it should be. Now, why am I so passionate about it? Because I see the effect every day in my OPD. And when I see a 28-year-old girl walking in and I give the diagnosis to her parent that she has lung cancer, she has 6 months to live, and father tells, doctor, I was planning to get. And it is that shaking which actually brings out that desire in me that, okay, when you are privy to this information, you cannot be sitting on this information. It's and your OPD into public space and share this information that is your duty. So I think since I see the effect, I'm motivated. And when I talk with my experience that, okay, I'm a lung surgeon, this is the color of the lung I'm seeing. So people get motivated. So I see doctor as a motivated motivator to tell people. So I have created this group so that we actually, I wish to see every doctor in the country having a panel or display panel in his OPD. In India, breathing kills. If you just put this one line, in India, breathing kills, people will read and start, doctor, why have you put up this line? What does it mean? It makes no sense. So that will start a dialogue on discussion on this pollution. So that's my first call for action. More and more information dissemination about the depth of effect it is having. If people are told that your next generation, we are all earning money, millions, making big, big houses, leaving, oh, I'm leaving a beautiful house for my child. What good is that house if the child cannot come out of that house 10 years down the line without an oxygen mask? I would rather leave a hut for my grandchildren, provided they can play comfortably the way I played in my childhood. So when I portray this kind of two pictures, one a child in a mansion but coming out with a mask, another one playing in a garden, people say, oh. Then the intensity, the urgency is conveyed. And then second thing is, we need to come out with small action plans. Sometimes there are political priorities. As you said, stubble burning only contributes 40% to the Delhi's pollution during those months. Now today there is no contribution coming from stubble burning. But politically, it suits everybody to blame Punjab for political burning and they blame Delhi like that. So even politicians need to be sensitized. Now, regarding politicians, I would quote one statement made by a minister in European Union. And he, in his private discussion, said, it's not that we don't know what needs to be done. What we don't know is that if we do what needs to be done, how will we come back to power in the next election? So I come back to my point number one. If this becomes an issue with the public, where today government comes up with some legislation, people try to oppose it because they feel it's inconveniencing them. So that it has to be bottom-up approach. If people start demanding clean air as a matter of right, the bureaucrats and the government will have no choice but to listen and do what needs to be done. So, Mitra.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saab. And I just hope, I would love to see, I don't know if I can be pardoned for this, but if I can see a revolt in people that they are not ready to accept substandard material urbanization going on without turning it into a responsible growth and responsible urbanization plan. If that revolt can have so many positive effects all across at that level, Thank you very much, Dr. Kumar. Pandeji, what would be your prescription? Two mechanized prescriptions that we can go through, implement, and we can get a solution. And this is the picture that you were talking about. My God. Pandeji, you're on mute actually. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I don't want to see this picture again anywhere in India, in Punjab or Haryana or whatever. So that is one thing, that is what I want to. And second thing is, I read somewhere that some Mr. Lester Brown had said, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. So when we are borrowing it from our children, we would better give them back what they really treasure, they should treasure. So we need to give them a clean environment, at least, if nothing else. And second thing about the revolt that you were talking about, I think, yes, I think that is the latest, that is the revolt that we really need. We should tell the government that we need clean air or you get lost. That's all. I think that is all. And listening to Dr. Arvind, it was wonderful, but then it was again very, very scary when he said that today 50% of the lung patients he sees are non-smokers. So sometimes I feel, do I really need to start smoking? Maybe I'd be better off. Anyway, that is my point. That's all. And over to the next speaker.
That should not be the reason for us smoking, because
No, I will never do that. Don't worry.
we all are smokers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
How do I get rid of?
Thank you so much, Mr. Pandey.
Thank
Vijay,
you. Thank you.
Coming to your background and your what we would want as a prescription from you is that, imagining a solution is not enough. And we need to set up some examples here. We need to get hold of some examples that we can scale up. How decade? I'm looking at the next 2 years or maybe 2.5, 3 years. Do you see, are you hopeful about and what would be your prescription for that?
That was for me?
That was for Vijayji.
Vijayji, yeah.
So Mithun, that's a tough one. I thought of all that, but I think what Dr. Saab said, what you said in terms of, a revolt, a call to action, I think clearly what we need nationwide is a large scale comms campaign about creating awareness and spreading, the right kind of messages about the harm that is happening, aimed at different segments, right? And it has to be led by the government. It has to be a PPP, private sector, public sector to participate, to fund it, ad agencies to get involved in creating the content, right? And the Amitabh Bachchan, Sachin Tendulkar, Dhoni's and the likes to become ambassadors. This is a national problem. Unlike everything else, this is a problem which is hitting every individual, every child that is born and or yet to be born, right? So this is impacting each one of us. So it has to be a national campaign at that scale to create awareness. That is one. The second thing is a call to action. To see results in 3 to 4 years or 2.5 years is a call to action where the little thing that is happening in Delhi with the pilot project that we're doing, every city should have a body which is responsible for air pollution with set targets and work on action, not penalizing, not doing anything, but making sure that work which can happen with the multitude of agencies at every city level, and at the national government and state government level. There must be committees which must address every source of pollution, whether industrial, whether power plants, whether vehicular, whether construction and demolition dust, right, or garbage, all this, like you rightly said, or stubble burning, like you rightly said, percentages are there. They keep varying depending on the time of the year, depending on where you are, what contributes 20%, what contributes 30%, where you have a lot of vehicular traffic, that will be number one. Where you have a lot of construction going on, that will be number one. Winter, you'll have, the crop burning contributing a larger portion. Without getting involved in those statistics, we've identified 6 major sources. For each source, there must be an owner at national level and state level. who should have a 3-year or 2-year action plan and must report back every 6 months on what work has been done. So that's my prescription. Easier said than done.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. But on your PR thing, I think one of the things, how simplistically we can start means when the COVID started and both at the vaccination phase, you could pick up the phone and you would hear Mr. Bachchan or somebody coming in the caller tune. I just imagine taking Dr. Arvind Kumar's I'll just rent out your statement for some time and we can just pick up and say breathing is killing India.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
It sets you up. Means even if 10% of the total population decides that, okay, this is, why are we hearing this? Means 5 times in a day, if you hear this, it will create some questions up. And I think the first step would have done. I also think that, in a lot of dialogues and panels, when we go, what happens is a lot of this discussion comes onto foray. But somewhere down, as it goes up in the political cacophony, it is all lost. People contributing political ambitions behind policies without and foregoing completely the benefits of that policy. I think somewhere down the private sector also feels let down because they they invest a lot on coming with solutions and then they get somewhere, in a state of confusion, and then, these elections coming, political priorities taking a top seat, then all of this. I hope that, let's assume, and this is my expectation, that in 2024, let's fight the election on this basis. Who are ready to fight the election on the basic needs? And pollution has got a real effect on the GDP. So you're fighting about the GDP. Where is your consistent GDP going to be after 5 years? Your next generation is going to be completely crippled in this. So, and that doesn't make economic sustainable sense at all to ignore it.
So Soumitra, just to share with you,
our
first campaign, which we did as a test case, was this when the Delhi elections were to happen, कि आप pollution का क्या कर रहे हो? Asking every candidate.
Correct.
That wasn't then. Since we started, we said we'll only work with government. We thought, that would be a problem for us. But what you're saying is right. It should be a question for every election campaign. What are you doing? It has to be an issue. It has to become an issue. Yeah. Sorry.
Soumitra,
Anurag, coming to you.
Yeah.
Now you made some very emotional and psychological points that, everyone knows about the work pattern that Tata's and the ethos that it stands for. How do you limit materialization to start responsible materialization? How do you limit this expanse? And how do you see this growing urbanization does not just take away everything from it? Means we are already 1.5 times Earth requirement, as you just said. We would only be able to feed 50% of the Earth's population right now. And how long? But where do you see these limiting bars coming? And what would be your advice? Forget about everything. Forget about TCS. Forget about CII. Forget about just a discussion. What is Anurag's opinion on this? What is his prescription?
Yeah, prescription is very simple, Soumitra. Live simple. That's it. So live simple is something like we correlate with what we earn, and if we don't stand up to that standard, we are thought to be somebody not up to the mark. So that ideology, that mindset has to go off. I might be, not making too many FMCGs or QSRs happy, but avoid going unnecessarily and spending money when you're not required. So it all adds to the consumption, right? So
yeah.
So from a technology perspective, also from explain everybody that we need to minimize movement, and that is not just for COVID. Once the COVID is also over, try to live with minimal of resources, and believe in me, we can do much better. A company like TCS, they can earn much more post-COVID than pre. During COVID era, we earned more as revenue sitting at home. So a lot of things can be done apart from, of course, the surgeries which Dr. Kumar does. So wherever it's not needed, you just try to be where you are. So that's what that really indirectly points out to being living simple and straight. So that's one point. Secondly, Soumitra, I think if we are towards the closing of this program, so one message which can do justice to this program is what Dr. Arvind Kumar said, right? And you also mentioned let's take it on ourselves that we'll spread his message of breathing kills, right? So that's something which we should take forward. It's a beautiful message, and probably I can promise Dr. Kumar that I can call him to various of my office, large meetings where he can himself explain what it is. So that's something which you should take as a cue point today. So
Okay.
that doesn't require any investment, and everything we reach out to government, that requires, and if it requires investment, then government has reasons not to do it with a tight shoestring budget it has for a lot of things. But let's target focus where we don't have to invest. We have to spread ourselves the message, and I can promise TCS would be there every time for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Anurag. And I think one thing that we can all start is if CII, and I will push it as much as I can now, is that if even the institutions that we represent today, I think if we can actually start a process where we use this as a central agenda, central spine of communication, there can be some effect. At least, I think COVID is a signal that the nature has shown you by example that you can survive on less. And then we can use technology as a force multiplier, which it always has been, or a result magnifier as we speak about it. But I think COVID has taught us that we can limit to that consumption somewhere down the line, because the last 20 years has been a very consumption driven lifestyle economy. I would go to the extent that our psychological bent have also become very consumption oriented. I think somewhere down the line we need to get a hold of ourselves. This was not the purpose of what we have done to nature today, and it's time that allow nature to reclaim it. Even during the lockdown phase, you could see cleaner air, you could feel clean air, and Yamuna came out to be much cleaner, and look at it right now. Means it's back to its frothy levels. So at the end of the day, I completely second with all of you, but I just hope that this discussion, or many more discussions to come from here, leave us with some instincts inside us, raises some questions inside us at an institution level. As you said, Anurag, at a TCS level, you're a larger company, we are a smaller company. Vijayji is working in this platform. Dr. Kumar is going around, like for example, a simple campaign like Doctors for Clean Air. How many, I came to know it about today, but this should have been much more popular in all platforms than what it is today. That means I came to know today, and the first thing that I'm going to do now is try and promote it if possible. Try and promote it, because if Dr. Kumar is having a realization that some of these people who are expected to know about it already are also in a state of dismay, imagine the larger chunk of the population of this country, which is largely uneducated, even today. And you can forget about the rural areas. Means if Mr. Pandey has to travel all the way and convince somebody there, a villager who is uneducated, and telling him the effects of pollution, and it is having, it will take a huge amount of effort for him and his team to do that tomorrow. And I think what we need to do is, if we can pick up these, Dr. Kumar's advice, Vijayji's example, your idea, Mr. Pandey's on-ground execution, and turn it into one model which can be then scalable. Obviously, with the PPP mode, that's the only way. The size of India, you have to scale it up and make these little things clear. For example, we can start the caller tune by saying, breathing is killing India. For example, Doctors for Clean Air. Means these are some things that do not require, as Anurag said, huge investments. This can start right now. And if you can get you look at the viral campaigns these days for all trivial things that happen. These are serious foundational things which are a challenge to the next generation, to our generation. Forget about the next generation, to us today. I just hope that I'm going to try and put up a paper with all of your comments, and I'm going to circulate to, I'm going to request Karunesh and Vaishali to send it to you if you can send your inputs to it. And let's try and make an effort in that direction. I think this requires immense hard work from all of us. And if all of your inputs can be put into a paper, I would request Karunesh to send it, and we can release it, and we can try and get some campaign modes up on that aspect. So my heartfelt, my heartfelt gratitude to all of you, Dr. Kumar, Mr. Pandey, Mr. Chadha, Anurag, to all of you, and my heartfelt support to all of you, because I realize how all of you are fighting it out, and the fight is not getting the light that it should. In spite of that darkness, you are one of the few beams which are lit up. And I hope that you do not get discouraged. I pray to God that people like you should stay encouraged, stay positive, and I'm sure there will be a change. This generation will not spare, not leave any stone unturned to ensure that the light that has been lit by you goes down. It will not. So thank you, Karunesh,
Thank
especially
you.
for coordinating, and thank you to everyone, and wish you a very happy Holi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Same to you. Happy Holi to you. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you. Same to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.